Whether you're preparing for the end of the world as we know it, or you just want to build a tiny home on some remote property as a place of recreation and retreat, maybe you even just want an extra bunkhouse or some storage space on a rural property. In my personal opinion, the Bunkie Life tiny homes are an excellent solution. They are relatively affordable, easy to set up, high quality, and in most jurisdictions don't even require a building permit. There are numerous cost-effective DIY options for building a tiny home in the woods. But Bunkie Life provides a low-cost solution for somebody who's in the market for a professionally designed product that's easy to set up. Today we're going to explain from start to finish in great detail what you can expect from the moment you place your Bunkie order to when it arrives, how to build the foundation, how to set it up, and how to finish it. So let's get to it. When dealing with Bunkie Life, they give you a couple of options for delivery. They are able to deliver it right to your site, but because my friend Dean from Arkopia has a flatbed trailer, we chose to pick it up from the shipper to save a bit on the shipping costs. It showed up, they loaded the Bunkie kit onto our trailer with a forklift, we tied it down with some heavy-duty straps, and we were on our way to our site. We chose the site we did for a few reasons. First, it's a nice lightly treed area which will block some of the wind and provide a little bit of shade in the summer. It's also in an elevated spot relative to the surrounding terrain, so we won't have to worry about flooding. Thinking ahead, we will probably want to mount solar panels on the roof, so we made sure that our Bunkie would be positioned with part of the roof facing south. With the perfect site selected, we began clearing the area. We clear cut the small trees and brush cut the natural growth. Fortunately, we had a bobcat and the proper attachments in order to do this. There are numerous other tools you can use for this job. Then we used a landscaping rake to clear the remainder of the organic material. We made sure to clear a large enough area so that we'll have a few feet of clearance around the Bunkie from all sides to work with. You'll be thankful that you made this extra space around the Bunkie later on. Once we've cleared a large enough area, we laid down some landscaping material. You can find this at any hardware store. You'll want to pull this tight and hammer it into place to ensure that none of the brush underneath grows back and starts to poke through. Give yourself as much space as possible. You'll be thankful later on. On top of the landscaping material, we'll put a 4-inch gravel base. We used a bobcat and it took 8 or 9 loads to fill our approximately 500 square foot area. It should be known that this is a totally optional step. We used a 2x6 to scree the gravel and it was nearly perfectly level. Finally, we busted out the tamper to compact the gravel nicely. This created an incredibly solid base. I should note that the use of gravel is not required. However, we wanted to build this as perfectly as possible, so we opted for a gravel base. With our site all prepped, we were ready to get started on the foundation. There are a few different ways you can build a foundation for your Bunkie, and it's up to you to decide what's the best fit for your location. For this build, we chose a wooden foundation on skids. This will allow us to insulate the floor, as well as making sure that our Bunkie is rodent-proof, waterproof, and forever square. We also leave ourselves the option to move this structure if we ever need to. We laid down some paving stones and we checked the level. You'll want to do this at each stage to make any necessary adjustments as you go. Then we cut all the 2x6 joists and headers. These are the joists, these are the headers. We laid out the joists at 12 inches on center in accordance with local codes, then screwed them and nailed them into place. We then added some blocking between the extra joists for extra support. This is what's called 7/16 OSB sheeting. We then place this down over our foundation. When laying out 12 inches on center from one end, make sure the 2x6 joist lands halfway on a 4-foot sheet of OSB so you won't have to make any cuts. This is a standard framing technique. Make sure to check the square again before screwing the sheeting in, because once these are secure, you won't be able to adjust the square. We then used the chalk line to mark our joists and went to town screwing down the sheeting. We had some excess OSB board on the last sheet, so we just followed along with a circular saw to trim it. After the frame is all trimmed and secured, we wrapped it in house wrap and used tuck tape over the seams. This will help protect the bottom from any rain splashing up or snow blowing under in the winter. We then attached the treated 2x6 pieces that will sit on our railroad tie skids. Next, we flipped the whole thing over and moved it into place on the railroad ties. Doing it this way will allow us to add insulation in the floor before putting on the floorboards. Once again, we check the level and use asphalt shingles as shims as needed to get the whole thing perfectly level. Finally, we added some treated wood to the outer border for extra strength, to protect our foundation, and to match the exact footprint of the Bunkie. Isn't that satisfying? Unpacking the Bunkie was a little bit of a chore, but it's definitely worth doing properly. As the saying goes, preparation is 90% of the work. In order to reduce shipping costs, Bunkie has to pack the skid in a certain way. Unfortunately, this means that the boards aren't entirely organized. Luckily, each piece in the kit is marked with a code, so we unloaded everything and reorganized it on our trailer. This will make finding those pieces you need much easier throughout the build. We then got started by spacing it out and screwing down the treated 2x4 floor joists that came in the kit. Super easy to do. Next, we laid the first row of wall pieces. On this row, you'll need pre-drilled holes into the pieces. Then use the foundational screws provided to secure them to your foundation. Bunkie provides you with all of the screws and hardware that you're going to need to put this thing together. Then we continued laying in the wall pieces. Everything is tongue and groove. It's just like Lego, so each piece sits securely in the channels of the piece below. This is a very straightforward process for the first few rows, until you need to slide the doors and windows in. For the first few rows and windows and door spaces, you'll want to put screws in at a 45-degree angle, securing them to the row below. Make sure to follow the instructions closely, as they will tell you exactly how many rows high you need to build before changing pieces. For every piece, Bunkie Life recommends using a mallet and a hammer block to ensure a tight seal, and then screwing down into the corners at an angle to avoid hitting any screws underneath. You'll want to leave the windows and door floating until you've secured the beam above them. Then use the screws to secure them in place. Also, make sure you remove the set screws in the windows, otherwise they will be permanently closed. As you approach the second floor, there are special pieces that extend progressively further out the front of the Bunkie. This is the cantilever system that will support the loft. Again, be sure to pay close attention to the very detailed instructions. Where the first floor meets the second, there will be pieces that have notches cut out to fit the upper level floor joists across. The floor joist will slide right in, and this will add a ton of strength to the structure. We then got to work installing the floorboards on the second floor. Easy peasy. Doing this now will make building the second story walls and roof much easier. We'll continue adding wall pieces, and then there'll be another window install in the loft. Once we were finished with all the wall pieces, we were then ready for our pre-assembled peak pieces. There are 2 tiers to these, and you'll want to secure the roof support beams on the first before installing the second tier. These should all fit together very nicely. Then we attach the support pieces between each of the roof beams. Finally, we're ready to attach our roof pieces. These are also tongue and groove and fit together very nicely. Bunkie Life also includes all the door and window hardware in your kit. This may require some tinkering, but it's very straightforward and easy to figure out. How you finish your roof is really up to you. You can use asphalt or wood shingles, or a tin roof, which is what we would recommend. Metal reflects the light better and lasts longer than asphalt. We wanted our roof to be as durable and well insulated as possible, so we went above and beyond for this stage. First, we covered the roof that Bunkie provides with house wrap. We used this hammer stapler to get it tight and smooth. This will prevent any condensation from touching the wood roof structure. On top of that, we used a 1/2 inch thick rigid insulation with an insulation value of R3. These will help retain any heat that you might lose out of the roof. We then went a little overkill and added a layer of insulated tarp for even more moisture protection and insulation. We got a good deal on this stuff, so we figured we may as well put it to use, but this is certainly not a requirement. We trimmed the edges and again used the hammer stapler to secure this area. Then we used our EVE flashing to finish the edges of the roof. Now we're ready to start prepping our metal roof sheets. We measured out and pre-drilled the sheets before sending them up for scaffolding. Again, doing this little bit of prep work is worth more than the trouble once you're up on the roof trying to figure out where to drill. Using a rubber gasketed metal roofing screws, we secured the metal sheeting piece by piece, overlapping the edges of each sheet. Finally, to finish the whole thing off, we attached the gable and trim and the ridge cap. If you have any questions with respect to how we built this bunkie, please leave them in the comment section below. Once again, I must emphasize that there are numerous options for DIY builds that will certainly come in at a cheaper price point. But the value for what you get compared to the cost of a typical home, the Bunkie Life offers a great plug-and-play solution for your off-grid homesteader needs. You can check out the link in the description for more information. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.